Broadcast Center in Los Angeles. This is KCAL9 News at 9.
Now at 9, new video of the desperate attempts to save a family when historic flooding hit New York. And new details about the nursing home patients forced to ride out Ida in a warehouse. The Taliban takeover is complete. Terrorists say they've seized the last Afghan province held by resistance fighters. Tonight, there's growing concern about the Americans who remain stranded there. But we begin tonight with the California recall election. In just 8 days, voters will decide the fate of Governor Gavin Newsom. Welcome to KCAL9 News at 9, and we're streaming on CBSN Los Angeles. I'm Juan Fernandez. In LA County, 108 voting locations were open today, with more opening on Saturday. LA has already seen more than 21% of registered voters cast a vote. In Orange County, that number is 29%. As Joy Benedict reports, the candidates were busy on the campaign trail this Labor Day, trying to turn out the vote.
You are being betrayed. You are being used. You're being manipulated.
The gauntlets were thrown, the campaign's clear. With 8 days left in the recall election, there was no holiday for those fighting to be California's governor.
Polls show that black and brown parents want choice in education.
Larry Elder held a rally in Thousand Oaks this afternoon, preaching education failures, outrageous home prices, and a loss of local businesses to the state.
More businesses have left California so far this year than all of last year. They are leaving, and they're citing the cost of living, high taxes, and excessive regulations.
In Oxnard, gubernatorial hopeful Caitlyn Jenner toured an onion processing plant.
Agricultural business is such a large business in California. It is a vital part of our economy, and they can't get water. Or the water that they do get is so ridiculously expensive that they can't make any profit on their farms.
Jenner says we have to make more above-ground storage facilities and make better use of the water that we do have.
About 70% of the water in California goes out to sea. That has to stop.
And State Assemblyman Kevin Kiley was in Glendora on his campaign tour, also talking about the need for change.
Everywhere I go, I'm feeling the sense of hope and optimism that we can finally turn the page on this era of decline and failure in California and get to the point where we can start leading the nation in the right ways again.
But of course, the person who is governor of the state of California isn't handing over the office. Governor Gavin Newsom was in the Crenshaw district.
8 days. Let's turn out this voice.
He was on the attack, speaking out against not only those wanting his office, but the Republican Party, and asking voters to see that this recall isn't just an attack on him, but all Democrats.
A Republican-backed recall, backed by the RNC themselves. We said the most important election in our lifetime is defeating Donald Trump, and we did that, but we didn't defeat Trumpism.
There have been 54 previous attempts to try and recall a governor here in the state of California since the option became available all the way back in 1911. In all of those times, only once it has been successful, and that was, of course, back in 2003. From Studio City, I'm Joy Benedict, KCAL9 News.
And be sure to watch KCAL9 and CBS2 on Election Day. We will have live team coverage from our team of reporters all across the state. That's Tuesday, September 14th. And will be streaming on CBSN Los Angeles as well. Well, it's believed to be an arsonist to blame for this fire that burned in Angeles National Forest. The fire broke out just before 8 a.m. 1 mile north of Glendora Mountain Road. The fire burned about 5 acres. The suspected arsonist is still on the loose. To the north, evacuations around South Lake Tahoe have been now downgraded, allowing residents to return home. Lighter winds over the past few days allowed firefighters to gain the upper hand on a fire that's burned more than 216,000 acres across 2 counties. The fire is 44% contained, but firefighters are warning people not to let their guards down just yet. All right, now to the storm recovery in the Northeast. Tomorrow, President Joe Biden will take a first-hand look at the flood and tornado damage in New York and New Jersey. More than 50 deaths in the region are being blamed on that record-breaking storm that hit last week. Mulalengi reports tonight from ravaged Manville, New Jersey. That's about an hour southwest of New York City.
This silent body cam footage shows the desperate attempt by police to save a 2-year-old boy and his parents as rainwater flooded their New York City basement apartment. With no special equipment, an officer at one point ducks into the murky water to feel for the apartment door as a brown teddy bear floats into view. But the officer comes up empty. The door is locked. Backup from fire rescuers eventually arrived, but not in time. The family of 3 drowned. They were among at least 51 people who died in the remnants of Hurricane Ida, including this father of 7 in New York City. 5 days after the storm hit, at least 4 are still missing in New Jersey alone, while the massive cleanup continues.
This is going to be a long journey, but we're going to stay with them every step of the way.
New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy.
It's homes, it's small businesses, it's infrastructure, in some cases schools, and sadly, 27 losses of life.
For many who survived, digging out has been nothing short of overwhelming. Manville, New Jersey was hit especially hard, as can be seen in this before and after image. For the Murata family, there's nothing to dig out from.
Were you able to salvage anything?
No, not really.
You lost everything?
Yeah, a few dog pictures, that's all I
There was like
found from my room.
2 or 3 pictures, yeah, old pictures. Crazy how that survived.
This is their Manville home after it exploded into flames the day after the storm.
Do you consider yourself lucky? Do you consider yourself...
I would say,
absolutely.
Yeah, very lucky.
Very lucky, yes.
Ahead of his trip to New York City and here to Manville, New Jersey, President Biden has declared 6 New Jersey counties disaster areas, making residents like these eligible for federal aid. Mola Lengi, Manville, New Jersey.
About 500,000 people in Louisiana are still without power a week after Hurricane Ida. With sweltering heat, conditions are still dangerous there. And tonight, we're learning disturbing new details about nursing home patients who died after being evacuated to a warehouse. Jesse Mitchell reports.
They were hungry, they were thirsty, they was in pain. It was just very sad.
A harrowing account from nurse Natalie Henderson, who rode out the hurricane inside a warehouse crammed with more than 800 nursing home residents relocated just before Ida hit. These images show patients in squalid conditions, packed closely together on mattresses.
And the whole place is reeking of urine and feces. It just was horrifying.
Some were forced to relieve themselves in small buckets.
Who would do this to patients, you know what I mean? And if you speak up about it, they get mad.
Who gets mad?
The supervisors, they don't want you to, say anything.
Are there many other options for you in New Orleans?
Not really.
Since speaking out, Henderson says she lost her job.
They just try to paint me out to be this bad person that I'm not. I'm not a bad person. I just be trying to look out for them people who can't speak up for themselves.
The owner of the nursing home seemed to downplay the tragedy last week.
We only had 5 deaths within the 6 days, normally with 850 people you'll have a couple a day. So we did really good on taking care of people.
Why would you say that? There shouldn't be no deaths at all. At all. It's just heartbreaking.
The storm's emotional toll extends throughout Louisiana, and some residents have given up. They're leaving the state.
Any place the Lord blesses us to go out of this heat, where we're able to get some food, get a hot bath, and just some comfort.
The state health department is investigating the nursing home owner. We reached out to him for comment, but have not yet received a response. On top of everything else, we're learning that some married nursing home residents were separated during the evacuation of this warehouse, causing even further anguish. Jesse Mitchell, Independence, Louisiana.
Some parts of Louisiana were under a flash flood warning tonight. Let's go over to Olga Ospina now, who's tracking the conditions. Olga, is there any major rain out there tonight?
Hi, Juan. Yeah, things are kind of winding down, at least for Louisiana at the moment. However, with this cold front pushing through, there is still the threat of some rain as we head into Tuesday and some more of that severe weather. So we're seeing some activity out towards the southeast. For us, though, here at home, we are talking warm temperatures. It was above average today for places like San Bernardino, getting into the triple digits this afternoon. Right now, at the 9 o'clock hour, 79 degrees and some clear skies. We also are seeing some warm temperatures out through the deserts. Lancaster checking in at 86 degrees. Other than that, pretty comfortable outside. 73 in Van Nuys, mid-70s in Ontario, and low 60s for Big Bear City. We are still continuing with some watches and warnings, and we will break this all down when we come back in just a few minutes. Juan, back to you.
Sounds good, Olga. Thank you. Turning now to the pandemic, COVID-19 hospitalizations continue to drop in LA County. More than 1,400 people are in the hospital. Today, the county reported over 1,500 new cases and 11 more deaths. The numbers might be lower because of reporting delays caused by the holiday weekend. County health officials are still keeping a close eye on the Mu variant of the coronavirus. 167 cases were identified in LA County between June 19th and August 21st. It's being called a variant of interest because health officials say it has key mutations linked to greater transmittability and the potential to evade antibodies. The actor, best known for his role as Omar Little on HBO's The Wire, has died. Michael K. Williams was found dead today in his penthouse apartment in Brooklyn, New York. Investigators say drug paraphernalia was found near his body. The 54-year-old New York City native most recently appeared in HBO's Lovecraft Country and the series F is for Family. Williams was set to co-star in Sony's George Foreman biopic. The 5-time Emmy nominee also won a SAG Award for Best Ensemble along with the cast of Boardwalk Empire. Still ahead here, a former U.S. Marine accused of the unthinkable.
He's evil in the flesh. He was a rabid animal.
Tonight, new details of his alleged killing spree that left 4 people dead, including an infant. What investigators are saying about it tonight.
There it drops.
Millions of Californians received gift cards today after getting the COVID-19 shot, but it appears thousands of them weren't able to access their winnings. We're following the money. And climate change, putting California's giant sequoias at risk. What can be done to save these ancient treasures? Taking a live look at LAX tonight as many Americans return from their holiday weekend getaways. Millions of people traveled by plane and car, even as the U.S. records its highest daily number of new COVID cases since January. Here's Errol Barnett.
The return of college football attracted hundreds of thousands of fans this Labor Day weekend. More than 70,000 watched Notre Dame beat Florida State. And out west, similar-sized crowds saw UCLA top LSU. Still, the TSA reports Sunday's air traffic, while busy, was 14% lower than the same Sunday before Labor Day in 2019. This follows the CDC discouraging those who are not vaccinated from traveling. Back on Memorial Day, new COVID cases averaged 18,000 daily. Now the CDC has tallied more than 150,000 new cases per day and nearly 100,000 COVID patients currently hospitalized.
You have to be safe, to make sure that we can travel more later, right?
For those who flew, protecting themselves against the highly transmissible Delta variant was top of mind.
I'm wearing my mask, using hand sanitizer, just keeping things safe.
Most of those on the move will drive home today and tomorrow, finding higher gas prices. The aftermath of Hurricane Ida in the Gulf helped push the national average up to $3.19 per gallon. And Californians are paying $4.40, the highest Labor Day gas price ever. Now, as soon as gas demand declines, prices should follow suit. Here at DCA, both United and Delta estimate that their holiday traffic was down 20% compared to before the pandemic. And for those of you wanting to avoid the traffic on the roads, the worst time to drive back will be between 2 and 9 p.m. on Tuesday, so avoid that window if you can. Errol Barnett at Reagan National Airport.
On this Labor Day, the $300 weekly pandemic jobless benefit boost for millions of Americans ends. The federal eviction moratorium already has ended, but in LA County and California, that moratorium doesn't expire until the end of the month. Other assistance, including rental aid and the expanded child tax credit, are still available. President Joe Biden marked Labor Day by delivering sandwiches to union members in his home state of Delaware at a picnic hosted by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. He shook hands, took pictures, and even talked on the phone with the mother of a union member. Biden says union members are the people who helped build the middle class. Well, we want to wish our Jewish viewers a happy Rosh Hashanah. Tonight marks the beginning of the Jewish New Year. The two-day festival celebrates the creation of the world and marks a time of reflection, repentance, and rejuvenation.
This is KCAL9 News at 9.
Tonight, a milestone in the transition of power in Afghanistan. The Taliban announcing it has taken full control of the country. Panjshir Valley was the final province to fall. Welcome back to KCAL9 News at 9, and we're streaming on CBSN Los Angeles. I'm Juan Fernandez. Well, tonight, two major developments from Afghanistan. The U.S. confirming its first land rescue of Americans. This happening as the Taliban says its takeover is now complete. Correspondent Charlie D'Agata has the latest.
Taliban fighters raised their flag in the Panjshir Valley today, a declaration of victory over the last region to fall under Taliban control. The last hideout of the enemy has been captured, a triumphant Taliban spokesman told a news conference. The war is over. But the mass exodus continues, and among the tens of thousands desperate to flee overland, State Department officials tell CBS News an American family of 4 got across today, and the Taliban did not stand in their way. But dozens more Americans remain stranded here. Satellite images of the Mazar-e-Sharif airport north of Kabul show 6 commercial aircraft on the tarmac amid accusations they've been grounded by the Taliban.
The Taliban is holding them hostage for demands right now. The state has cleared these flights, and the Taliban will not let them leave the airport.
The Taliban deny the claims. Marina Legree is the founder of Ascend Athletics, a group helping Afghan women and girls trying to get out.
I told a whole bunch of teenage girls that are under my purview to come. So we've got teenage girls traveling away from their families in this unsafe condition, and it's gone on for too long.
Amid the emerging crisis, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Doha today for high-level talks with the Qatari government. This country has played a vital role in the evacuation of tens of thousands of people from Afghanistan, helping to find a new home for those too terrified to risk staying behind. The Secretary of State's visit to Doha is seen as a thank you to the Qataris and personally to the Emir. This country has emerged as a key player in the region, partly for its help in that massive airlift and in providing a diplomatic bridge between America and the Taliban. Charlie D'Agata, Doha, Qatar.
President Biden is now facing his worst job approval rating since he entered the White House. One of the big issues, the rise in coronavirus cases and deaths across the country. President Biden will give a major speech Wednesday as several states are now running out of ICU beds.
The thing to do right now is to pull out all the stops on everything we can do to prevent new infections. You're going to be in a situation where you're going to have to make some very tough choices.
52% approve of the president's handling of the pandemic. That's down 10% compared to June. Meanwhile, the president is blaming the Delta variant for the disappointing numbers in the latest jobs market. Well, new fallout tonight linked to Governor Gavin Newsom's Vax for the Win program. Many of those $50 vaccine gift cards have yet to be redeemed, and it turns out some of that money may have been transferred elsewhere. KCAL9's Julie Watts has details.
There it drops.
It's been a few months since the governor doubled as a game show host, handing out cash prizes in the largest vaccine lottery in the country.
$100 million, $50 gift cards available today.
In addition to grand prizes, he also offered You Called the Shot $50 incentive gift cards to anyone who got the shot.
2 million incentive cards on a first-come, first-served basis.
Fast forward a few months, and the state tells us more than 1.5 million of those gift cards were delivered. But what about the rest?
We hope to distribute all those dollars before June 15th.
Turns out that didn't happen. We've learned potentially thousands of Californians were unable to redeem their cards. When some tried, they received this message that said it had already been used. CDPH tells us more than 1.5 million redemption codes have been successfully delivered, but a procedural error impacted less than 1% of the codes sent. Though with 2 million codes in all and more than 1.5 delivered, it appears thousands of Californians may have been impacted, resulting in potentially hundreds of thousands in unused Vax for the Win funds.
These are an opportunity to say thank you.
Julie Watts, KCAL9 News.
And for those still having issues redeeming their incentive cards, the state is referring them to its Vax for the Win hotline, which can be found on California's official website for coronavirus information. We have that on our website, kcal9.com. Check Seen on TV. Multiple waves of this pandemic have caused a swell of stress and trauma for our frontline healthcare workers. For some, the best way to decompress is to catch a different kind of wave. Here's Carter Evans.
#CBSLA.
A former Marine who trained to shoot and kill in combat in Iraq and Afghanistan faced a judge in Florida today, accused in a murderous rampage. A family was killed, including a baby and a grandmother who he had no apparent connection to. KCAL9's Susie Suh is following the case for us, and she joins us now with details. Susie.
Juan, thank you very much. Brian Riley is facing 4 counts of first-degree murder and more charges tonight for his alleged shooting spree. We do want to warn you tonight, the details of his reported crime are disturbing.
He's evil in the flesh. He was a rabid animal.
Polk County Sheriff Grady Judge is talking about this man, 33-year-old Brian Riley, an ex-Marine who's now charged with killing 4 people in a horrific pre-dawn shooting.
It was just, it's continuous, pop, 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 pop.
It happened about 4:30 in the morning Sunday at this house in Lakeland, Florida.
In the main house, we discovered a man, a woman, and an infant in the mother's arms, all shot to death.
Authorities say the baby boy was just 3 months old. Also dead, the baby's 62-year-old grandmother, who was hiding in her closet in another house on the property. The family dog also shot and killed. When deputies arrived, there was a shootout. Windows and doors were left riddled with bullet holes.
He was a coward.
Investigators say the suspect was wearing body armor but surrendered after he was shot. That's when police went inside and discovered the bloody scene, along with an 11-year-old girl who had been shot multiple times but is expected to recover. The sheriff says there does not appear to be any connection between the shooter and his victims. He says the suspect told them he was a survivalist and high on meth, and this terrifying detail.
He just explained that they begged for their life and that he shot and killed him anyway.
The suspect served in Iraq and Afghanistan and was a designated sharpshooter. His girlfriend told investigators the suspect recently started to believe he was communicating with God.
She said he had PTSD. I've seen him depressed. And he said, you know, God spoke to him, and now he can talk directly to God. And she said, I'd never seen that kind of behavior.
Well, tonight, officers say once Riley arrived at the hospital, he tried to grab an officer's gun but couldn't get a hold of it. Riley is being held tonight without bond in Polk County Jail. Juan, back to you.
What a story. Okay. All right, Susie, thank you so much for that. Ahead of the 20th anniversary of 9/11, the case against 5 men charged in the terror attacks resumes tomorrow. The pretrial hearings for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and 4 others have been put on hold for a year and a half due to the pandemic and unresolved legal issues, including what evidence the defense will have access to and what information could be used. If convicted, the 5 suspects could get the death penalty. In tonight's business report, a factory partly owned by Major League Baseball is shutting down and moving dozens of jobs out of the U.S. and overseas to China. As Chris Van Cleve reports, the impact is being felt hardest in the town where that factory is located.
Every crack of a big league bat used to spark a sense of pride in Caledonia, Minnesota, knowing the batting helmet on every pro baseball player's head was made in this small town of 2,800. But the Mikan factory that's provided good-paying jobs for over 2 decades will soon close. The bulk of the jobs shipped to China.
It's infuriating. It's America's game.
Sarah Glassrud owns Good Times, the restaurant and bar across the street from the factory. She fears its closure will bring anything but good times. Mikan makes up about a quarter of her business.
It was difficult before the pandemic hit. It's even going to be more difficult now.
But what really has folks here crying foul is just who is outsourcing this community's lifeblood. Once family run, Mikan was bought by Rawlings, which is now partially owned by Major League Baseball.
What would you say to Major League Baseball?
I wouldn't probably want to say it, so you got it on tape.
Dwayne Schroeder is Caledonia's mayor.
I thought they'd have more respect for the United States and small America, who supports all their baseball teams, and going to China, I think, is the biggest, hardest blow.
MLB stresses the batting helmets will still be made in the U.S., adding it owns less than 20% of Rawlings and does not have a role in the day-to-day business operations. The helmet work will shift to Missouri, but most of the 80 jobs in Caledonia will be lost to China, saving Rawlings at least $4 million a year.
I just keep thinking, what would happen if the commissioner of baseball called up
the guy who runs this companies, and he says, hey, I don't think we should do this.
Minnesota Senator Tina Smith says Americans should be outraged.
We should be expecting more of America's pastime than this kind of just, put the dollar first kind of thinking.
Now one small town's Field of Dreams risks striking out and turning into an economic nightmare. Chris Van Cleve, Caledonia, Minnesota.
The U.S. has more and more older workers. The Bureau of Labor Statistics looked at data on the nation's workforce and compared it to 1979. It found the percentage of people 65 and older in the workplace has doubled over the last 40 years, and the share of work being done by 55 to 64-year-olds has also gone up. Wildfires and the drought are threatening some of California's most unique natural wonders, the giant sequoia trees. Stephanie Elam reports.
From their size, General Sherman is 275 feet tall. Holy cow. To their longevity.
Before ancient Rome, before Christ, these trees were mature.
Much about giant sequoia trees is on a grand scale. With that distinctive red-brown bark covering their thick trunks, sequoia trees can only be found in California's Sierra Nevada mountains.
This is a resilient tree. They are tough. Almost nothing can kill them.
But climate change is changing that, shrinking the giant sequoia's footprint.
A giant sequoia that was first weakened by drought was then subject to impacts by the bark beetle, which then further weakened the tree and potentially made it more susceptible to mortality from fire.
The stag tree is said to be the 5th largest tree in the entire world. It's lived more than 3,000 years. And yet we're seeing that wildfire is threatening these giant sequoias more than ever before.
The Castle Fire was a wake-up call. An estimated 7,500 to 10,600 trees were destroyed in that one fire alone.
Started by lightning in August 2020, the Castle Fire was part of the Sequoia complex that burned more than 174,000 acres, scorching several sequoia groves.
It was devastating, heartbreaking. Everything had been incinerated. It was a field of the world's largest burned up toothpicks.
After decades of suppressing forest fire, other trees and brush have grown rampantly around the sequoias.
The fires that used to burn every 5 to 10 years in the Sierra would just keep down the competition and reduce the fuel naturally.
On land owned by the Save the Redwoods League, we hiked out to see just how deadly the Castle Fire was here.
For us to see 10 to 14% of the total of giant sequoias alive killed in 1 year in one fire there's nothing to compare that to.
Yet fire, in and of itself, is not the enemy of the giant sequoia.
Their cones open up, their seeds start to germinate after a fire.
So near those lost giants, where the fire wasn't too intense, small shoots of hope take root.
What I see is a lot of these little baby giant sequoias that have sprouted up since the fire happened.
Without an urgent response to the climate crisis and increased forest maintenance, experts worry more of the once seemingly impervious sequoias will be lost.
The biggest worry for me is we have 2 fires burning right now that are threatening groves that we have not been able to treat. The risk is still there.
Stephanie Elam in the Sierra Nevada mountains.
And coming up next, illegal gun sales fueling a crime wave in a major U.S. city, how the feds are trying to crack down. That's next at 9. And here now what we're working on for 10 o'clock.
The local comedy world is in mourning. I'm Rick Montanez in North Hollywood. How fans and loved ones are remembering them, and the warning from a doctor over how they died.
Even as breakthrough cases among the vaccinated continue for the Delta variant, now a new variant is on the scene. We'll have the latest coming up.
And a story you won't see anywhere else. A delivery driver races into traffic after spotting that toddler running down a busy local street. That's all ahead at 10. Thanks for watching KCAL9 News at 9. KCAL9 News at 10 starts right now.
Live from the Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, This is KCAL9 News at 10.